In this video, I'm going to show you how to build an AI automation that generates thousands of highly targeted keywords for the niche that you're in. So we're going to develop what's called a keyword topical authority map, and we're going to get AI to do the whole thing for us. So I'm going to walk you through the process. Once you've developed a keyword or topical authority map like this, we can then add in other AI automations, which I'll show you in future videos, that will go and write content around these keyword topics. Now, this can be for Google to rank in search engines, but you can also apply it to all other areas of your niche that need content, because you want to address all of the topics around a niche to become an authority in that niche. But we can use the power of AI now to create this topical authority so that we address everything in the niche, and then we create content around that. So this is part one of a video series where I'll show you how to do the keyword part of building out this authority. And then I'll show you how to build other AI writing tools that will take that and produce blog posts or LinkedIn posts. There's a lot of other writing applications that I'll get to. But right now, I'm just going to show you a walk through what we're going to do. So the first step is we're going to use Airtable to create a database where we're going to put all these keywords. Then we're going to use N8N as the automation platform to run the automation. N8N is going to then use API requests for DataforSEO. We're going to do live scrapes off Google to get data. I'll walk you through all the different API calls that we can do to use DataforSEO. Then we're going to use AI, like ChatGPT. We can use other AI agents as well in the flow. It's just going to process the data that we scrape, and then it's going to create other prompts that we can use to then go out to DataforSEO and get more data that it has, pull it all back, and package the whole lot into a topical keyword authority map back into Airtable. So that's an overview of what we're going to do. I'm just going to take you through now and show you it in action. And then after you've seen what it does, then we're going to go and build it step by step together. Okay, so I'm over at Airtable, so I'll show you how to put together the Airtable stuff in a minute. But first of all, I'll just show you this in action. So all you need is a seed keyword. So we'll just start with one called hormone balancing as an example seed keyword. You'd have a bunch of seed keywords, and in another video, I'll show you how to scrape competitor websites to get all the seed keywords for your niche. But for this video, you just manually put in the main core keywords. That's all you need is something to start, so otherwise known as a seed keyword. Once we've built this automation out, all you do is just go generate keywords, and that's actually all you need to do. So if we click generate keywords and then we go to N8N, so over at N8N, now that we've triggered the automation, this webhook is going to fire, which you can see is happening right now. So what it's doing is it's pulled through the Airtable record, and now it's calling these HTTP requests, which is where DataforSEO gives us all this relevant information from the search results at Google. So it gives us related searches, keywords that people type, questions that people ask. We package all of this up and we send it to this AI, which then generates other keywords that are related to it. Once it's created like semantically related keywords, it shoots it up this path, and then this path repeats and it flushes it through this another path, which creates all these other keywords. So it's got the search volume, it's got the keyword difficulty of these keywords. So this path is being completed now and being iterated over. So already we've got 25 keywords that have come through. Once it's done that, it then goes back here and loops through, and these original seed keywords which branched off, it finishes these off, and then it's done. So you have to be pretty quick to keep up with it. But from one seed keyword, we got a bunch of keywords here. So if we go back to Airtable, you can see all of these keywords have come in now. And the way that it's done it is it groups these by tiers. So you can see tier 1, tier 2. Now I can filter for that if I want to. But for now, you can see that it keeps them under a vertical. So the original keyword is the vertical that these keywords are in. So this is how we create keyword silos. So this is the silo, and underneath this we have tier 1 and tier 2 keywords. But you can also see over here we've got keyword volume that we've pulled from DataforSEO, and we've also got keyword difficulty. Now what we can do though, once we've got these keywords in here, is these can then be seed keywords themselves, and we can flush these through. And we can keep flushing them through like this until we have thousands of keywords which cover absolutely every possible keyword in your niche and every question that you could need answered. So as you can see here, I've automatically just populated 54 keywords really quickly. Now, that was just one example, and I limited it to 50. Obviously, you don't want to throttle it to just 50. I've just hard-coded a number to say only generate 50, just for the sake of an example in this video, but you could set that to hundreds and hundreds for each seed keyword. So if you had, say, 50 seed keywords in here, and they were each producing hundreds, you can quickly get to thousands of keywords. Once you've got your topical map covered off, as you'll see, all of the questions that people ask, we're going to be storing them in this database, and I'll walk you through how we get that. And then once we've built out this topical keyword map, then we can work on the next automation, which is writing content that addresses all of the possible topics within the niche. So let me walk you through how to do it. First of all, we're going to start with Airtable. So it's a pretty simple setup actually at Airtable. It's not going to take very long, but you'll need an account at Airtable. So set up an account, then you come in here and create a new table. So give this table a name. I've just called it Auto Blogging N8N. Then you just need one table inside this master table. And just call it Keywords. And then once you're in here, all you need to do is create a column and edit that, call it Keywords, single line of text like that. Just drop down single line of text. Then the next field is a status field, and here it's a single select. And then we choose two options, which is you just click add option, generate keywords and keywords generated. Just choose those. And then we need a tier, and here it's just a single line of text. So you just call it tier, and we'll automatically update and say if it was tier 1 or tier 2. And I'll show you how we get to tier 1 and tier 2 when we build out the N8N automation. Then we're going to have another field here, which is the vertical, which is just a single line of text. Or you could just call this the silo. This is just how we silo and group keywords together and the relating to the original seed keyword that they came from. So in this case, it was hormone balancing, and that's the silo that all these keywords belong to. And then we're going to have another column here, which is search volume. This is actually a number field, so make sure you select number. And the next one's keyword difficulty, and that again is a number field, so select number. And then finally, we're going to have a record ID, so we can have a record for every row. And in order to have that, you just simply click formula. In the field, just put record underscore ID, open close parenthesis, just like that. And then it will create that formula, and it automatically populates a unique ID for each row. So that's all you need to do on Airtable, right? This will be blank when you start with, which is perfectly fine. It doesn't need to have anything in there right now. But before we move on, we need to actually set up an automation trigger in Airtable that will work with N8N. So go to the Automations tab here, and then all you need to do, in the bottom left, go Create New Automation, and then you want to choose the trigger when a record matches a condition over on the right, and then in the table, choose Keywords, and then the status, in the conditions, choose when a status is, and then choose Generate Keywords. That's the status that will trigger this. So that's the first box. And then in the Actions box, you want to choose Run a Script, like that. And then on the right-hand side, look for the Edit Code button. And here, you just want to take this code here. So just take a screenshot of this code. Actually, I noticed it's not actually fitting fully in the screen for you guys. I'm not sure if I can actually open that up fully, but I'll paste this below the video for you anyway. But you need to put this code in. It's not a hard code, difficult code to write, but just copy it, take a screenshot. Now, you will have to change this URL, which I'll show you how to change in a second. But you need to have it set up exactly like I've got. And then over on the left-hand side, in the inputs, create a new name and call it Record ID, which is a capital I for ID. And then the value, click the plus button, the plus symbol rather, and then choose Airtable Record ID like that. That's all you actually need to do over at Airtable, and the automation's ready to go. The rest of the stuff will be done over at N8N. So let's head over to N8N now, because we need to get our webhook and come back in here and save it. So once you get your webhook at N8N, come back in here and actually paste it in there, and then click Finish, and then turn this automation on, turn it on. I'm not going to come back here to show you how to do that, because I'm sure you can handle it. But let's go over N8N now. So you needed an account at N8N. You can just get a free account. They give you I think it's a 14-day trial they give you for free. To just get set up at N8N. This is what the automation is going to look like, as I showed you earlier. Might look a little bit complex if you haven't built something like this before, but once you get into this, you'll see that it's actually not that difficult to do. I'll walk you through every part of it, even if you've never done anything like this before. First step you need to do is add this webhook so that we can send information from Airtable to N8N. So go to the top right, click plus, and then just click web hook, and see that's one there. Click webhook, open it up, in the test URL field, keep it on test for now, and just copy that URL. That's what you're going to go and paste back at Airtable in the automation field that I showed you. Once you've done that, you can actually trigger that webhook to fire and bring in the record ID from Airtable. So the way we would do that is if we go back to Airtable and I go to the data, this would be completely blank for you. So you need to start with the seed keyword. So type in a seed keyword for your niche. That's all you need to do. And then in the drop down next to it, click generate keywords. Once you do that, it's going to trigger the automation. So back at N8N, you have to make sure you test the workflow. So click test workflow here, that button there. Once you do that, this webhook is going to be listening and waiting for the trigger event to happen. And that trigger event is what I just showed you over at Airtable. When you change the drop down status to generate keywords, it's going to trigger. And what that's going to do is it's going to send the record ID from that row in Airtable through here. So if you look inside this webhook, we can see in here, if you look inside of it, see the record IDs come through here. That's the record ID for that row of the first keyword. So now that we've got the record ID in N8N, we can pull all that data through by using an Airtable node. So I'm going to do that now. The way we do that is click over on the right and click Airtable like this. And then you want to choose get a record like that, open that up. And here you need to connect N8N to Airtable. In order to do that, at the top, you go here and click create new credential. I'm not going to walk you through that in this video because you can look that up yourself. But if you get lost, just click the docs button at the top. It'll walk you through what you need to do at Airtable. You need to get your API key and your credentials, and then you come in here, and then once you click down here and create new credentials, just plug everything in that Airtable gives you, and then you've connected a bridge between Airtable and N8N. So once you've connected Airtable and N8N through that, all you need to do here is leave everything the same, and then in the base, you'll just select the table in the base that you're working with. So once you've connected, you can choose that drop down and it will find the table and base that you're working with. So it's auto blogging N8N and keywords is the table. In the record ID field, here's where we want to map in the record ID that the webhook pulled through. So we change the status to expression, change to expression. Then in the webhook on the left-hand side, if you scroll down, you can see the record ID is sitting in here. Drag and drop it straight in there like that. But you've got to make sure it's set to expression. Once you've done that, you can click test step at the top. Then it's going to pull through the record. You can see here, there's the record ID, and there's the keyword hormone balancing's come through. And then you can see all the details here that have come through from that. Okay, now we have the record to work with. That's all we need to run this automation because we needed the seed keyword. Next step, put that back down here. Now we need to connect to Data4SEO. Now Data4SEO, I'm just going to pop over there as a service that has heaps of amazing keyword data that we can pull. So you can go into their API playground. So go to DataforSEO.com. You can just look at the URL actually in the top there. It's app.dataforseo.com/API-playground. And then once you're in here, under the playground menu on the left, we've got all these different things that you can do. So if I look here and like the search results here, once we connect with an API here and it shows you how to do the connection, we can search by different countries. Here we can change the status. We're going to leave this to the United States, but you can choose the country that you want to get the keyword data from, the language. We're going to leave everything to the United States, an organic Google search. And what we're going to do is we're going to get data from a real live Google search, and then we're going to scrape those websites and scrape all of the information that Google gives us on a Google results page. And then once we've got that, we can use that in AI to gather a lot of information of other keywords that relate to that seed keyword. And that's how we start branching out a topical keyword map. So you'll see as we progress how this works. But if you just look at the example below, you can see they've given you a keyword, which is weather forecast here, right? If you want to see how to build the HTTP request at N8N, just click code example like that, and it actually shows you how to do it. Now, N8N has a feature where you can actually just copy that exactly. I'm just going to blank out my authorization code here. But if you just copy that exactly, and then you go back to N8N, what you want to do here is do an HTTP request model. And so if you go on the right-hand side and go HTTP and then request, this will pop up. And here, you can actually go import CURL up here, the curl URL. So if you click import like that, you can actually just paste in the example that they gave you like that, and it will set up the HTTP module for you automatically and put everything in the right place. That's the easiest way to do it. once you've got credentials over at Data4SEO. Now, I'll just hop out of that. So that's what you want to do there. Once you've got that set up, I just want to go back to Data4SEO because I forgot to say you need an account here. Now you can just put a couple of dollars on the balance. I think they even give you some free credit. But once you set up here, you do need to get an API token. Anything where you're doing automations and apps are talking to each other, most of the time you're going to need to put your API token, and you just have to get used to learning how to do that. So just follow the prompts at Data4SEO and get API access. There's a big green key. Follow the instructions they give you. They're going to give you a code, and then they're going to email that to you. Save that code, and then once you connect here, once you've set up and you've got your API access, and you do that code example, it will have your API code in there, and then it will automatically update it. So then when you go back to N8N and do that import from curl, it will add everything in here automatically. It's amazing. So it's much easier than if you haven't got experience with how to set up authentication. This will do it automatically for you. Now, in case you have any difficulty with that process, this is how you want it to look when you're done. You want to have the method to post. The URL is the URL endpoint that they give you for the particular run. So what we're doing is this search results endpoint. So this is what we're doing. So the URL, if you go to the code example here, if you look in the location request, see it says post, and then that's the URL that you want to grab. That's that one there, copy. And that's what you'd be putting in here in the URL field. So everything else can stay exactly like this, header auth. And then in the header authentication, this is where you would create your header authentication here and put in the details that Data4SEO gives you, because it's going to ask you what your token is in order to be able to connect. But again, if you just do what I said earlier, it will automatically do all of that for you. So I'm going to blur out some stuff here so it's hidden, but you would have headers should be sent to on once you've done that. Authorization, then you've got is the name of the header, authorization, capital A. Value is put the word basic, not bearer. Sometimes it's different. So capital B for basic, then your token in there that they give you. Content type, just like I've got there, application JSON. You do have to have send bodies to turn to on. And then in the body content type, JSON, and then using JSON below, just like I've got there, application JSON. You do have to have send bodies to turn to on. And then in the body content type, JSON, and then using JSON below. And then here is where we paste in the body request that we send over. So this is how we speak to Data4SEO and say, hey, this is what I want you to search for me on Google or whatever API call that we're using. So in order to do this, we want to dynamically map our seed keyword in so that we have a starting point. So you map in exactly this JSON code. And again, just to get that JSON code, all you have to do is look at their example. They actually give it to you right there. So you can grab it exactly how they give it to you. Don't change anything. But what you do want to change is how it's dynamically mapping that keyword field. So in between these quotes, we want to put a keyword, which is our seed keyword. So how do we do that? Well, it's quite straightforward. We just map it from Airtable, because you remember the step earlier, we had Airtable mapped it through. So look over at the left, you can see the keywords here. That is now mappable. I can just drag and drop that straight in. So you can see it's shown up twice. I'm going to delete it because I don't want it in there twice. Get rid of that. But you would drop it between those quotes. Now be careful not to break anything. Leave those quotes intact. And then you can see what the expression looks like on the right. Once you've done that, and by the way, you need to set this JSON input field to expression. Once you've done that, you can click test. And what's going to happen is Data4SEO is going to use your keyword, and it's going to do a live Google search for you. And it's going to pull back all of this valuable information here from a live Google search. And I'll show you what we can do with this. There's a lot of content in here. It's really valuable. And again, this is all done automated. It might seem slow when we're setting it up, but it's actually fully automated. So hop out of that. Once you've done that, connected that step, then this will work and pull that result from Data4SEO. Let's hop out of there. I'm going to slide that down. What we're going to do next is this module here, which is an edit fields. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. I realized I was way too far out. The edit fields here again, click the plus symbol and click edit, and then you go edit fields, which is a set variable. And here we want to basically pull and set the information that we need from that result. We don't need all of the data because it's a lot of data. We just want to pick and choose and then store the data that we want that we can then pass on down the automation. So use an edit mode for this, an edit node rather. So if you look at what I've got in here, it's set to expression. So again, set it to expression and then open it up here. And you can see I've got 3 different things that I'm mapping here. All you need to do is just copy what I've got here. It'll save you a lot of time if you just copy. Take a screenshot, copy and paste it. And then it's going to work exactly like this. So what this is actually doing is it's going into the previous result that we got from Data4SEO, and it's looking for certain fields that we want. Okay, so if you look here, it's got related searches. So one of the parts of the data that we got back from data from SEO was related searches. So Google will tell us, okay, well, you typed in hormone balancing. Here's some related keywords that people type in. So we can pull them to the right. And by mapping them like this, we're mapping and joining. So we're using these functions in here on this array, and we can map and join them. This is all this is doing. If you have a look at it, you don't actually need to understand it. Just copy it and it will work. But it's just mapping and joining these together, the related searches. And then the other thing that it's doing is it's going into that whole feed that we pulled through, and it's looking for the people also ask. So if you look on a Google results page, you'll notice that there's related searches that we can get, but you also notice they have sections, people often ask, right? Or people also ask, or people also search rather. So these are things that are really helpful information for us because Google's telling us related to your seed keyword, this is other things that people ask. And this is other things people search for. And these are other related searches. So this is very valuable information that Google's giving us because it directly links to our seed keyword. And this is how we branch out and branch out and branch out and build a topical keyword map. So by doing this, exactly what I've done, all I'm doing is I'm mapping from that result related searches, people also ask, and people also search from that Google search result. And that's what Data4SEO is so great. It grabs it all for you. And then by just using this expression here and mapping things, I can stitch them all together really quickly. So you can see here, I've got some really great questions that people ask. And I can put it all together in here, and then I can store it to use later. So that's the first result that we're getting from doing a live Google actual results page. So once you've done that, click test the step, and then you're going to get here that we can map in later. So I'm just going to hop out of here. That's that field done. The next one's another HTTP request. Now, because we're using Data4SEO, all you have to do on this request is click those 3 dots and click duplicate. And then everything can stay the same. You're just going to change the URL that we request. So this is another endpoint at Data4SEO called related keywords. So Data4SEO, if we go back, we can go into their playground section here, and we can go to the keyword data. And here you can see, I think it's under Google, related keywords. No, it might be in their search results. So I just have to quickly look which endpoint it was at. I think it might be Data4SEO Labs, possibly. Yeah, it is. Under the Data4SEO Labs, you can see here related keywords. So this is another endpoint which we can pull data from their database, and it will tell us all the related keywords that they know about from previous searches that they've done on Google and stored here. So this is just another endpoint that we can call. Everything else stays the same, except what you do need to be aware of is you may want to change some of these settings. If it's not United States, you can play around with what you want to change in the settings here. Most of it will stay the same. Now you can do multiple keywords here, but we'll just leave it at 1 for this example. But if you look at the code example again, it will show you exactly how to do the input body, which is this raw JSON part down here. It will show you. So you just really want to copy it exactly and put it back at N8N. And here, so if we go back to N8N, because we duplicated this, all we got to do is change the URL to the new endpoint. So make sure you get the new endpoint URL. Everything else stays the same, except the body copy down here will change to the new example they gave you, because the body copy is not exactly the same. Sorry, not the body copy, just the body that we're sending over in this request. In this particular example, what we're going to map in here is from Airtable, our original seed keyword. So with N8N, you can just go back and map that in. So if I look on the left-hand side here, you can see the original seed keyword is still sitting there for me to map in like that. Okay, so I'm not going to map it in twice. I'm just going to delete that. But it's the same thing you did previously. You just map in the seed keyword again, but we're running a different API call this time to get different results. Okay, so once you've done that, you run it, And then here again, you're going to get a whole bunch of valuable information that we can then map and process. So what does that look like? That's done now. Here we're going to do another edit fields, open it up, set it to expression. And here, just copy what I've got in this expression and it will work for you. And all we're doing here is we're mapping the related keywords. So all the related keywords that came from that particular API call that relate to our seed keyword are all mapped here and stitched together. So it makes it nice and clean for us to now store and feed into the AI. So by doing this, we now have a whole bunch of related keywords, a whole bunch of questions that people ask, other search terms that people search for. And now we can start to build this up and feed it into an AI LLM and get it to process that information and find more tier 1 and tier 2 keywords based on all of this information that we're feeding it. So once you've done that, now you've got the related keywords done and parked up. So that's all you need to do. And then, this module is now done and we can move on to the next HTTP request. Again, just duplicate it. And this is a request called keywords for keywords over at Data4SEO. So if you go back to Data4SEO, you can see here, another option we've got is, I'm just trying to find the right one. Keyword suggestions, keyword ideas, might be under keyword data on the left, keyword data. Just got to remember where it is. Yeah, keywords for keywords. Here's the endpoint that we're using here. It's the same process again. Everything's the same. Get the code example, change the URL and the body that you send over. Then we map in the seed keyword. Then we run this API request. We get the data back and then we map it and store it. So you're probably getting the idea of how this works now. So again, follow that whole process through exactly as we did the same thing. Map in the seed keyword into the keywords field. And then we're going to run it. We're going to pull back a different set of data here. And you can see here it's got search volume and other things here that's going to be useful for us. And then we're going to map it and store it with an edit field in this example here. And you can see here, I'm just getting the keyword field from the actual result that came through. So you can see here, it's just it's mapping and joining. So if you look here, it's mapping the keyword field and joining them by a comma separator. That's all that's saying to do. Then over here, you can see all these keywords that came through, which are related to our seed keyword. So now we've got a bunch of keywords and search terms that relate to our main root keyword. So this is all stored in a very easy format for us to then pass in to an LLM to train it to look for more related keywords to this. So if I hop out of here, let's just zoom back quickly before we process the next step. What we've done in this step here is done 3 HTTP requests to Data4SEO using different endpoints that pulls back different data. And then we're just storing it in these edit fields here. And then we're going to join it all together and put it into this AI module here. And it's going to be processing this and spit out new keywords on the other side. So let's have a look at how we do that now. The next module you want to add is a basic LLM chain. So over on the right-hand side, just go basic here, basic LLM chain. And here, you need to connect off the model here, a brain into this model. So off the model field, click model, and then you need to connect an OpenAI chat model. Now you'll need an account at OpenAI to do this. So go to OpenAI, which is the company that owns ChatGPT, and you need to set up an account with them. And you need to get an API key. I'm not going to go through getting API keys because it tends to make these videos way too long when I do that. But just stop. If you haven't got an account at OpenAI, you need to go and get an account. You need to get your API key, and then you need to come back. And once you've done that, when you add these modules like this, and you've added your credentials, again, if you get lost, just go to the docs module here, follow the example on how to do it, but you need to get connected here. So you would go here and go create new credentials, but you need an OpenAI chat model. I've set this to 4.0 because you can choose from all the different chat models that they give you here, but you need an account and you need to be connected via your API key in order for this to show up. So once you've done that step, make sure you do that and connect this OpenAI chat model to this basic LLM chain. Okay, that's really important. I'll explain what this structured output is in just a second. But first of all, let's hop in here and have a look at what we're doing. In here, we're going to put a prompt to tell it what we want it to do. And we're going to feed in all the prior data that we just stored in all those edit nodes. So the way we do that is we do a system prompt first in here. And we say, you're a specialist in developing SEO keyword groupings designed to build a topical authority. All input should be in English. Well, it's obvious because we're only doing it in English, but you might have a different language. And then we want to give it a user prompt here, okay? And this is where I hard coded it to say, give me 5 keywords. Now you can dynamically map that in, or you could change that. You might say 20. Okay. That's why I said earlier in this video, I hard coded it to 5 just for an example, and I'm going to leave it at that for now. But you could do a lot more than that and then build out thousands of keywords. But for the sake of time in this video, I just hard coded that. Again, you could dynamically map that in from Airtable. On the original seed keyword row, you could have had a column that said number of keywords, and you could have then dynamically mapped that and pulled that through. So you could have set that to 20, whatever you want. But it says, please generate 5 broad, semantically related and distinct subtopics for the main keyword. And here I map in what the main keyword is, which is our main seed keyword mapped in again. Okay, use the SERP data below. And this is down here where we map in everything that we just did on the previous edit modules. So if you notice here, if I slide this out, and I crunch all of this up so it's easy to actually see what we're doing, you'll notice in here, these are our edit modules, 1, 2, and 3. If we open them up, I can actually pull and drag that information that we stored and map it dynamically in this field here. And I can do that for all 3 of those. Just drag them and drag them. So all of that stored information that relates to seed keyword is now dynamically being mapped into here. So I'm having a little bit of difficulty sliding that back over. I don't know why. There we go. Okay, that was a bit slow of me. So what you want to do now in the user prompt, once you've done that, you can just read and see what I've told it to do and change that to whatever you like. You don't have to do exactly what I've done. And then you just just hop out of that. You would just test that. Once you've tested it, it's going to give you the output that you've asked it to do is give you 5 keywords that relate to the main root keyword. And again, if you'd set that to 20, it would have given you 20. And the more, 5's probably not really enough. It was just for this example, but we've given it so much information that it's able to produce 100 of these related keywords easily, because we've given it so much context from all these scrapes that we've done at Data4SEO. Okay, so just keep that in mind, that it's got a lot of information for us to build out these keywords. Now, these keywords would be tier 1 keywords because it's the first run that we've done, and this is the first batch of keywords that have been produced from the seed keyword. Okay, so these is what we would call tier 1 keywords. We'll then take each of these keywords and we'll repeat the process that we just went through for each of these keywords, and then they'll be branched out, and the results from those keywords will be tier 2 keywords. And this is how the branching begins to form when we do a topical keyword map. So if you do this step there and click run, there's one more thing that you have to do is put require specific output format, slide that over to green, and we're going to force it to output in this format like this, because this is easier for us to work with. So the way you force it to output in N8N is you just give it this structured output module here. So add a structured output parser like that. So again, just look for it on the left and go structured output parser like that. And here you give it the example output that you want. Okay, so I just give it the output that I'm looking for like this. Okay, this is the structure I want it to output in. And then voila, that's exactly what I get. Okay, so now that I've done that, these keywords are now, the output from this LLM is 5 tier 1 keywords. So this is where it starts to get interesting. We now can branch out and do multiple things here. Now this might look a little bit kind of spaghetti junction and like hard to understand what's going on, but it really will be quite straightforward once we just break it into the different stages. But we're going to focus on this top chain second. We're just going to focus on this bottom 2 chains now, and then we'll come back to those top chains, and then we're finished. So what we're doing in here is with the N8N, you can branch off to as many branches as you like. So this wasn't actually super obvious to me when I started playing around with N8N. You might think it would be, but in order to get a branch to come off, just in case you miss things like I do, click the little white button there, the little white circle, and just drag. And that's how you actually can add as many branches as you like. So I probably should have watched their training videos, but I don't tend to bother do that. I just start playing around with tools and learn by doing. Anyway, that's how you can have as many branches as you like. So we're going to have pull one branch off first and connect an HTTP module, which is another Data4SEO module. So again, just duplicate a previous one that you've done. Here, it's called the keyword difficulty. And then we're going to do exactly the same thing for another branch, and it's called the search volume live. So these are different endpoints again from the ones that we had at Data4SEO. So let me go back and have a look where we're looking for keyword difficulty and search volume live. So if we go back, sometimes it takes me a little bit to remember where I got these from. Search volume is that one there. So you can see, you can play around till you find the endpoints, but that's the search volume one. So if you again go to the code example, you can see here, this is the URL that we want to get, and this is how we do the keywords that we want to get. The raw JSON and the body that we want to send over. So you just adjust those every time. So then the keyword difficulty, I think maybe under Data4SEO Labs, if I just had to look under here, keyword ideas, keyword categories. There's a lot of really amazing data that we can build in future automations. I'm just going to remind myself, I'll just pause the video for a second while I remind myself where this endpoint is. Okay, so it's under the Data4SEO Labs. I must have gone straight past it, but it's actually this bulk keyword difficulty here. Bulk keyword difficulty is what I was trying to get to. So this is the endpoint that you're using on these two searches. So if we go back to N8N, that's all we're doing in here. Now, what we have to do here, though, is we need to map these in like a certain way for it to work. Now, because we can do bulk uploads of these keywords here, we can do more than one at a time. We just want to do something to the keywords that came from the basic LLM. So you can see on the left here, if you just look over on the left, these are the 5 new tier 1 keywords that came out, right? So we can just map all of these in bulk and send them to Data4SEO and get them to give us the keyword result that we're looking for. I can't remember if this is the keyword difficulty or the other one. But the way we do that is it needs to be mapped out like this with the keywords in a square bracket inside quotes, and then separate each keyword inside quotes separated by a comma. It has to come out like this or it won't work. Data4SEO will give you an error and say that the JSON was not correctly formatted. So in order to get it to do this, all you have to do in here is map in the keyword here, not the individual keywords, but like this root part here. But we need to change it in order for it to work. Okay, otherwise it's going to not format it correctly. And the way you do that is just, if you look what I've got in here, it's just stringifying this. So I'm just turning it into a string is basically what's happening here. So you can see that in there. Just copy exactly what I've got in there and it will work for you. I'll just get rid of that out of that. And then that's all you need to do in this one. And then I'll hop out of that. If you run it, you'll notice here that it's going to run for all those keywords here. It's just the keyword difficulty one. You can see it got the keyword difficulty for each keyword. So it did it in bulk. This one didn't have a keyword difficulty, which is fine. Sometimes the long tail keywords, it comes back with null, which is fine. But you can see there, by doing this, it did a bulk request and got all the keyword difficulty. So if you map that in like I did, that's going to work for you. In this search volume live, it's exactly the same thing. So if we just go down here into the body copy here, you can see I just stringified that result exactly the same way, and then it bulk does that, and then the results will come through and it will search and give you the search volume for each keyword. So that's how you can do bulk requests with Data4SEO. So prior to this, if you look back, we were just doing a single request. But once we got past this one, we had 5 seed keywords. Now we're doing a bulk request. So you just have to make sure that you format it in a way that it can handle bulk data, because it will iterate through those keywords on the Data4SEO side, and then it will send it back in a JSON that we can then manipulate, which is what we're going to do now. So in order to get what we want from these results, what we do is add a code module here. So go to the right and just type in code like that, code. And here, you're just going to copy the JavaScript here that I've got. So just take a screenshot and copy that, and it's going to work perfectly fine for you. There's one thing that you need to be aware of here in order for you to be able to finish this automation successfully. We need to pass a variable through this JavaScript in order for us to map at the end of this automation. So I'm going to explain what that is, but all you need to know here for now, if you copy this JavaScript here, paste it into the code node and run the code node, it's going to format exactly like this on the right-hand side. Just look how clean that is for us to now map into Airtable. We can map this information once we've finished This is what this JavaScript's doing. It's going through all this data and it's looking for exactly what we want, and it's formatting it in a way that's really tidy and clean. But not only that, you'll notice the original keyword and the record ID are also being pulled through. So the reason I'm doing that is this is actually being part of the JavaScript. It's actually telling it to append that stuff and pull it through. Okay. And the reason we want to pull it through like that is once we've done this merge node here, in N8N, once you add a merge node, it tends to, I've found, make it, it drops the information from prior, so we can't map back to this original Airtable node back here. I don't know why it does that, but it did. So the way to get around it is just in this code node, you just grab it and pass it through, and then it works perfectly fine. So once you've done that code node like that, you do exactly the same thing for this one. And it's just copy what I've got though, so you don't make any mistakes, because it's slightly different because it's referencing the different field, but map that through exactly. And it's also going to pull the code, the record ID and the original keyword. And the reason for that is because when we merge these together, we want it to work. So all we've done here is we've taken 5 keywords out of here, which are new seed keywords, new tier 1 keywords. We've done different Data4SEO requests here to get their keyword difficulty and their search volume, because we want to have that to map that back into Airtable. And then we clean it up, the result, using these code nodes with some JavaScript. And then we're just going to merge these results back together. And the reason we can do this, if you click here and click a merge node here, merge like that, open it up. In this merge node, you can just say, you can take different prior nodes that are feeding into it, and then we can merge them together into one. And because we've only got one keyword, but we've got keyword difficulty and keyword volume that we want to grab, then we're going to merge them together and they just form one output. Then we can map that to Airtable. And the way we do that is we just go mode combined, combine matching fields to match as keyword. Okay, so it's because they've both got the same keyword as the key here, then we can just say, well, that's the one that we're merging based on because they got the same keyword, right? And then we're going to leave keep matches and both inputs merged together like that, okay? If you just leave it like that and click test, it's now going to take the results from those code nodes and it's going to merge them together. And you can see the record ID and the original keyword also comes with it. Okay, so now we've got one keyword, keyword difficulty, search volume, and we know the original keyword that it came from. The reason we're putting that in there is that original keyword is going to be the vertical or the silo. We have to know, where did you come from? We got a new keyword here. We need to know where he came from. And the way we do that is we tag along this original keyword from the beginning. Okay, so now that we've merged them, all we got to do is add them back to Airtable, and that's the end of it. So to do that, you click Airtable module on the right, like that, and then you click the upsert, not create new. Make sure you don't make that mistake. It's actually an upsert one. So it's, or they call it in N8N a create or update. But then once you add it, they call it upsert there. So this is an upsert, is just saying, if the check of a record exists, if it doesn't, create a new one. And because we don't want to create duplicates. Okay, so we need an upsert. If we just created new every time, another search that we'd done previously might have found the same keyword, and then we're going to get duplicates and we're going to have a whole mess of a keyword database, and we don't want that. So once you've done that, open her up. You need to make sure you, again, correct your credentials. Make sure you choose the right keyword and base so you got the right thing happening. Now, the columns to match on here is important. You want to set that to keyword because it's the keyword that we're matching on, okay? Now we're going to start mapping in information. So the keyword that we're using to map on is coming from this keyword here. This is the merged keyword. That's what we're mapping on. So that's what we're checking exists in the database already. If it does, then we don't want to add it, right? So you just drag and drop like that, make sure it's set to expression. Okay, you can also notice here, and this, I'll just show you this. This is an important step. Just add on to the end of the keyword. If you click at the end here, you can do these little functions here. So if I'll just copy that out of there for a second. And then I'm not going to type it in to save time, but after keyword, you can click dot, and then you can add these functions in N8N. Let's see if I can do it without breaking it and slowing the video down. But you see, you can just click that dot symbol, and then all these functions pop up that you can add on here, okay? So you'll notice that there's some of them here in the case ones, the case, validate case. You can make them all lowercase. This is a really handy function because what you don't want to happen is You don't want some keywords going in with like a capital H or a capital at the beginning and then other times not. You need to standardize it when you're adding things to a database. And the reason you want to do that is later when you're doing another upsert and checking, you don't want duplicates arriving with some being capitalized and some not, because Airtable, when it's doing an upsert check, will look for capitalization and it won't think it's a duplicate. It will think it's unique. So you want to make sure you put everything in lowercase like that. So I'll just hop out of that. That's the keyword you're mapping on. And the tier here, you remember in Airtable, we had different tiers. This one came from the route that was a tier 1 keyword, which means it was from the original 5 keywords that the LLM produced. Okay, we haven't flushed this through another layer yet. So we call these tier 1. Okay, so then what we do in the vertical here, the vertical is just like, again, like a silo, meaning where did this keyword come from? Where's its main root originating keyword? And that's what I call a vertical. Okay, so you just map in your original keyword. And you remember in the JavaScript, we carried that through here on the merge node so we didn't lose it because we couldn't map it back further. So the original keyword is just here, just drag and drop that straight in, and that will update and make sure that this keyword is attached to the original. Then all we're doing here is mapping in search volume and keyword difficulty, which comes out of this merge node. You just drag those both in straight like that. And that's all you need to do, and it will update Airtable. So once that's done, you've now, if you head back to Airtable, you would have your 5 tier 1 keywords. So there's one keyword there. If you look down, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one. So there's the 5 tier 1 keywords that came from the original search. So that's all you need to do. And then you've got your tier 1. Now these tier 2 ones are coming from a different branch. So let's look at how these tier 2 are coming through, because this branch at the top is doing exactly what we just did, but it's just starting from a different keyword starting point than the original seed keyword. But it's doing everything that we just did. We're actually just repeating it. So you don't have to worry about doing all of this again, because you're actually just going to copy and paste the entire thing. But I just have to walk you through a couple of nuances so that we don't get confused about what's happening. But this is really fast. It might look like it's going to take a while, but it's really only going to take you, a minute to actually copy and paste that. So what we're doing here is we're saying these 5 keywords that came out of there, we want to flush them through again and do exactly what we did on the original seed keyword that came from Airtable here. We want to take each one that came from that LLM, we want to pass it back through and do exactly what we did here as if it was a new seed keyword. So the way we can do that is we could have saved them back to Airtable, and then we could have started again and then pulled them through, but we don't have to do that. We can just pull another branch of this LLM and say, well, while we're here, we might as well process them right away. So off the LLM, we're going to have a code node. And in this code node, what we're going to do, let's open this up. This JavaScript is then just going to allow us to pull through and iterate through every keyword. So if you just copy what I've got exactly as I've got it here, I'll show you how they output. So take a screenshot and copy that. Then you'll notice the output over here as each keyword is broken out. So now we can iterate over them and then in the following modules, because we've broken them out into a format that's really easy for these next modules to work with. So this is what the code node does. It just splits them and maps them out like this for us. Okay, so this is all you need to do. Now that you've got these 5 keywords in a format that we can really iterate over, then we're going to one by one go through here. Now, the reason we did that is you might be wondering, well, why didn't you just throw them in bulk in here? Well, some of these endpoints at Data4SEO don't allow you to do a bulk upload. Some of them do, some of them don't. So if you're doing like a live search result and scraping a Google web results page, you're going to do that one at a time. You're not going to do a bulk for that. So by splitting it out like this code node acts like an iterator, and it's gonna break these out, and it's going to iterate through them, and then we're going to close it off when we're finished. So what happens here, you'll notice if you look closely, the results here, it says 5 items were passed here. So those were broken into 5 different items. And then you'll notice each time here, it's got 5 items, 5 items, 5 items, 5 items, because it's processing each keyword exactly like we did at the beginning when we processed these ones. Back here, we only had 1 keyword going into each of these. But over here, because we've split them out using that code node, we've now got 5 going through. So it's doing everything exactly the same. It's just doing it 5 times. If you had 10 keywords, it would say 10. So here, you're just doing exactly what we did at the beginning. So I'm not going to go through that. I'll just show you like one example of what you would do though. When you're mapping this in down here in the body that we're sending, all you're doing is just mapping the keyword here. Just map that straight in like that. NAN will know that you're going to iterate through and do each keyword. It automatically knows to do that. If you just drag and drop that keyword from that field in there, it knows that we're going to iterate through and do the next one, the next one, and the next one. Okay, it just does it for you. So we do everything exactly the same as we did previously. So you remember this will look very familiar from the first step. You just copy. So I'm not going to go through this for the sake of time, because all you're going to do in this whole section leading up to this LLM is copy this section here. It's identical. Everything's identical. You're just copying everything straight across because we're just repeating it, right? And then even when we get down to here, so set all that up exactly like that. And even when we get down to this part here, it's identical, you'll notice, to this part here. It's just like we did in that first branch. So you'll notice here, we split them, used the code node, merged them back together, and added them to Airtable. The only difference is we're adding 25 keywords here. And so the reason that it's doing 25 keywords is once we get to this LLM, you'll remember that the prompt here is saying, take the seed keyword that's coming in one by one, and we asked it, give me 5 new keywords. So it multiplies it by 5. So if you remember in the prompt here, I actually hard-coded and I said, generate 5. Okay, and again, you could do whatever number you want. But at this point, we're multiplying it. So each keyword coming in here is getting 5. So now, we 5 times everything that comes out the other side. So you'll notice here after the code node, this is where we close the iterator off. So this is iterating one by one through all these keywords, and then it gets magnified by 5 times when it gets to here. And then finally, we close everything off in this merge nodule. So if you look closely, you'll see it says 25 items. Okay, so if I look in here, notice it says 25 items because we've actually got 25 keywords. So hopefully that makes sense to you, but everything else in here is exactly the same as the previous steps. And then finally, all you're doing is adding to Airtable. Now, everything's the same that you added to Airtable. The only difference is this route is our tier 2 keyword. So in the tier table, we change it to tier 2. Everything else is identical. You're just adding the vertical, the search volume, and the difficulty, and then that's it. So now, when you test that, you will have your keyword topical map complete. So that's the end of this automation. Obviously, there's a lot more that I'm going to be doing when I build out these writing tools, which this channel is largely about, is automating content creation. So there's a lot of pieces when you build these complex automations out. I'm just showing you one small part of it and then showing you how to use tools to do that. You can adapt this to what you need, but in future videos, I'll take you through how to use writing tools to actually take these keywords. So what we can actually do is, you'll remember when we scrape some of this data, we can save some of the questions that were asked. So if we look back here, and then we'll finish this automation off, but you'll notice in here that some of the information that we pulled out of here is really, really useful because it's got information about what people asked, questions that they actually asked. So if you look over on the right here, it's got search. I'll just open this up actually here. You can see here it's got people also asked or also searched. These are real questions that people are asking relating to the keyword. So of course, when we're doing our SEO and our writing, we want to answer these questions because Google, which has all this data from decades of tracking people, is telling you for your seed keyword, this is the stuff that's really what people are asking. So you'd be pretty wise to go and answer those questions and write about that stuff when you do your automations. So we'll look at that in future videos. For now, I just wanted to show you how to build a topical keyword map. So if we finish off looking at Airtable, you can see here we have the first vertical here, and then we've started to build out these keywords. Now we can look through and start writing articles on these keywords because we know the search volume and the keyword difficulty. Sometimes they're going to come through empty if they're really long tail. Data4SEO doesn't have information, but that's fine. Most of them we'll get. But now we can see search volume and how difficult the keyword is, and then we can go and write an article on that. So I'll take you through that in future videos, but that's the end of this automation on how to build out a keyword topical map for authority in your niche. So if you found this video helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you could give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment below. Let me know what sort of content you want me to create for future videos. And if you could help me out and subscribe, that would be fantastic. And I'll see you in the next video.